to see all of you. We're gonna get things started. There's plenty of food. It keeps coming down. So if you haven't gotten food yet, make sure you get some. What we're gonna do, is I hope you grab an agenda out front. We've got a packed agenda. I'm gonna try and keep us on time. What we're gonna do is just take a couple minutes for the resource providers to introduce themselves, so you know who is here and is a resource for you. And then we will start the formal program. I'm gonna have our new extension director give the welcome. We've got some updates, and then we'll get into the educational part of the program. Please keep coming on in. We are friendly. I know it's crowded. All right, so can you hear us okay online now that it's not so noisy? I've got a few folks online. All right, let me know if you can't, would you ask in the chat? Okay, got a few folks online too. My name is Nia Little. I might have said that already. Shake off the nerves. All right, so I'd like to start with Councilwoman Ramos. Would you introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Red Emma, specifically welcome to my district. I'm very excited to have you all, host you all here today. I'm very excited that the extension decided to have this event here. And we are doing a lot of work along Greenmount Avenue, and I hope you are seeing that and glad that you can experience it. And I'm really just excited about all the work that you all are doing. Many of you know that I've been doing a lot of work around addressing vacant properties and vacant lots, and you are our solution to the problem. One of the many solutions to the problem, in terms of making sure that the land that's there can be put to productive use. Whether it's another house or whether it's a garden or whether it's production of food. And I'm very excited about all the opportunities that are there because we have this land. So all of you are doing such a great job. I hope some of you were able to take advantage of our amazing farmers market earlier today. It was, in my opinion, the best in the region, I think, and I always enjoy it. So thank you for all of your work. I'm available for any questions you might have, and feel free to contact me at any time. And I just want to again thank you for being here in our district and supporting a local business, and also thank you for really all of the work that you're doing. I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Alex, and you're next on my slideshow. Would you introduce the Farm Alliance?
I like it. That's nice. I like this. Hi, everybody. My name is Allison Mormon. I'm the program manager of the Farm Alliance of Baltimore, which is a membership organization of urban growers, farmers, gardeners in Baltimore City. We have currently over 40 members in our network. We were founded in 2011, and so it's been exciting to be growing over these last over 10 years. So some announcements for us right now. We are hiring, so we have some positions open. If you want to cut that out, we appreciate you spreading the word as well. And then we are also offering throughout the season, we'll be offering several workshops and educational opportunities on farms and gardens in Baltimore City and beyond. So feel free to tap into those. You're all welcome. And follow us on Instagram, sign up for our newsletter. That's the best way to kind of stay in touch with all of our information. I'll be here today, so come and say hey. And I think that's it.
Thank
you. Members in the room too. So if you want to talk to folks in the network, that's also great. So.
Thank you. And if you're in the hallway, you're welcome to come in. It's okay. We've got a couple seats there and there and there and there, and there's some in the back. All right, next up. Oh, I see. So Amy is online. Can you unmute yourself, Amy? And I'm gonna.
Yep.
Let's see what happens. If you hear an echo online, somebody tell me and let me. Yeah, so is the sound coming out of yours, I think, Andrew?
I think so.
Okay, if you hear an echo online, let me know. Apparently 20 cars trashed on the Bay Bridge today because of fog. So Amy is on the other side. She wanted to be here, not her fault. let me, for those of you who are actually, yeah. Well, she'll talk, that's her picture. And if we listen quiet, we've got the speaker. Amy, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Nia. Thank you for allowing me to be virtual today. I'm Amy Colley, the manager of the Farm to Food Bank program at the Maryland Food Bank. We have locations, food pantries, all across the state. I get produce to Maryland farmers in a couple ways. I get produce from Maryland farmers in a couple ways. One is to go into their fields and glean what's left behind. The second way is to purchase produce from Maryland farmers. And then the third way is that farmers contact me when they have surplus. I really wanted to be there in person today so that I can network, but I can't fly across the bay. So I asked Nia if there was a virtual option. So this is the best I can do for today. I really wanted to be there in person because I wanted to network with some of you folks in Baltimore City. There's some friends I have in the room, I think, and see if I could make some new friends. We have some funding at the Maryland Food Bank specific to Baltimore City for products produced within the city. So if you fall into that category, you are the type of person I wanted to talk to today. So I'm going to hang out with you, but from a virtual level. Nia certainly knows how to get a hold of me. I think my email, she's got my email there, so you can shoot me an email if nothing else. So thank you, Nia, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Amy. And if you couldn't hear, basically, Amy is a rock star who gets food that would otherwise be wasted from farms to food pantries, and she has some grant funding to purchase directly from Maryland farmers to deliver to food pantries, which is so cool. Get in touch with her if you are a farmer. All right, next we've got Terry. Is Terry online? I don't think I see her. I'm gonna keep going. I'm just gonna say if you get my newsletter, you're gonna be getting a survey from Terry pretty soon about climate adaptation. Please respond to it. Farm Service Agency, Brooke is here. I put Mary's name, but Brooke is here today.
So, my name is actually Mary Brooke.
Mary Brooke, thank you.
I am the county executive director for Baltimore and Harvard County. Baltimore County also covers Baltimore City. We have a little bit of loan options available in the same way that we put in the so exciting service. Yes. So you guys have anything for us, or partnering with them, might hear from us for some of the basic paperwork we are closing available and everybody gets some help and have a meeting.
Thank you, Brooke. Farm Service Agency is part of USDA. They handle the financial side of USDA. I know we've got also some folks from NRCS who I don't have a slide for. Would you introduce yourselves? Oh, and yeah, please speak up, especially if you're on the far side of the room. Or, yeah, move to the front. I know Eric can talk loud, but everyone else can speak up.
I'm Eric Hines. I'm with USDA NRCS. My counterpart,
She's on her way.
She's on her way. Okay, supposed to be here. Colleen Kiefer, you'll meet her. I've worked with some of you, but much like FSA, we're based out of county, but cover the city for our programs. Also, we have our state conservationist, Susan Auburn here, and Rachel. And yeah, so they're from our state office here to see what's going on here. They're both new here with our agency. So yeah, hopefully Colleen will be here later. She'll be the main point of contact for any of you, but I can, while I'm here, can answer any of your questions. Okay, about our program.
Thank
Yep.
you. Eric and NRCS are wonderful. If you have soil that is moved from where you want it to somewhere you don't want it, they are your first call. If you want to plant something and you want to see if the USDA can help you with it, they have some really cool stuff going on at High Tunnels also. They're really helpful with. All right. Maryland Department of Agriculture. I believe we have Sarah and Manu here representing the local farm and fish program. Would you introduce yourselves and speak up real loud or come up front?
Hi, everybody. My name is Manuel Pesqueira. I work for Maryland Department of Agriculture Marketing Division. In Marketing Division, we promote by local farmers, different levels, local, regional, or even international. Kind of specifically work for certificate local farm enterprise program. This the focus of this program is institutional market. That means state agency. Every state agency like hospitals, prisons, university, we encourage to buy 20% from local farmers. If somebody is interested to sign up in the program, they will be here, they will sign up. If not, you can sign up from your one-stop account. Yeah, I will be here with somebody else. Some question about that.
Hi, all, I'm Sarah Servant, also with MDA. I run the Farmers Monthly Nutrition Program with the Department of Ag, and if you're not familiar with that program, it's free to join. It's if you are a farmer who participates in farmers markets or farm stands, it's a free program to be able to accept benefit funds from folks who use WIC or seniors who participate in the program. I have a conference coming up March 12th that I would love for all of you to attend, and I can share more information about that. We can chat later, yeah, and that's it.
Thank you. And I should keep us going, but Bill from MDA is gonna talk to you later. You can just introduce yourself real quick.
Bill Tharp, I'm the program administrator for the Small Farm and Urban Agriculture Program through the Department of Ag. So I'll talk to you all about my programs here a little bit. Thank you.
And Nadia is also from MDA, if you want to introduce yourself while we're on the MDA slide.
Hi, I'm Nadia Fahad. I'm MDA's climate and equity program coordinator, speaker for MDA, so I have this chat.
Thank you. If you want to come in, we're real friendly. We've got lunch over there. We've got a couple extra chairs on this side. Welcome. All right, we're almost done with the introductions of the resource providers. We're getting close. Hannah Callahan from North Central Insurance Agency. I invited here because I know she is actually insured an urban farm, which not all insurers have. Hannah.
So yes, I'm Hannah Callahan from North Central Insurance Agency. We're located just up in Baltimore County in the Hereford zone. But don't let that discourage you. We do understand what an urban farm is and how to properly insure that. And so that encompasses things like making sure it's general liability, so you can get certificates when you go to the Waverly Farmers Market or anything like that. And so that's something that we can help you with. We can also help you with things like making sure that any property you may have on site that gets stolen or theft or catches on fire. That's also where we would come into play and file a claim. And so we understand some of the nuances if you're just growing flowers, if you're growing vegetables, if you're growing mushrooms, you know, like all of those encompassing things. We have a nice little policy that is not expensive, I promise. I think that's a little bit of misconception that insurance is always super expensive. And we can write a policy depending on what it is for like $250 for the year. You know, just depending on how much your sales are. So it's definitely something that you want to have, especially if you're going to farmers markets and you're selling your products. I know most of you don't use any kind of like chemicals for spraying, but we have coverage for those kind of things. So it's definitely something that is not obtainable. And I think that's sometimes a misconception, and we actually know what we're talking about. I live on a little farmette. It's our biggest niche in our agency. So I can't stay the whole time, but Nia has my information. I think this is an amazing turnout, by the way. This is great, and feel free to reach out to my office. I'll be there. And I'd love to talk with any of you, even if you just need some advice. Happy to have a conversation. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I think, so what we're gonna do now is talk about extension. Carol asked if she could plug an event that's coming up real quick. Carol, could you unmute?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I hope everybody can hear me. And my apologies, I don't have as dramatic an excuse as Amy does, but my truck decided to pull the Diva Act this afternoon, or I would be with you. But I am Carol Allen. I am an agent associate in produce safety. I'm associated with the College Park campus, but I travel the entire state. But I am with my friends at Plantation Park Heights Urban Farm. We're putting together a series of 2-hour intensive, fun classes at Towanda Rec Center. From 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And what we're going to do here is drill down on some specific aspects of produce safety that maybe have been bothering you. And this is especially for the urban farmer. So I'm not going to talk about conventional unless you want me to. But we will probably cover mushrooms. I am qualified to do Mushroom Gap. All of this will lead up to 2 good agricultural practices trainings, one in April, one in May. These are going to be 2-hour bites of produce safety, friendly, intensive demonstrations. We're going to get dirty. So I hope Neith can pass on my information. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Carolyn. I know that was quiet, but the gist is she's going to be teaching microgreens food safety in Baltimore City at the Tawanda Rec Center coming up. I'm going to send the flyer out to everyone who RSVP'd, so you'll get that into the email. 2 other quick extension announcements before we get into the real stuff. Andrea here runs our extension internship program. We are accepting applications to come work for us this summer. If you're in community college, if you're in a 4-year degree program, you're eligible. Paid internship, come work with us. Flyers on the table over there. And we have our beginning farmer course starting February 8th. I'll also send that out to your emails as well if you haven't really, if you're still in like first 5 years of farm, it's relevant to you. Awesome. So I am very excited now to introduce our extension director, Dr. Antonio Silas, to formally welcome you and kick off our program. Antonio, would you like to say hello?
Sure. So first and foremost, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay? Just want to make sure. I'm so excited to be here. It was exciting to walk in to see a room full of agriculturalists. So shout out to you for being here. I really want to begin with gratitude. Thank you for spending part of your Saturday with us. If you're online, thank you very much for joining us. If you're en route, thank you very much for joining us. Regardless of why you farm, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it is social action, whether it is a familial passion, we sincerely want to thank you for all of the hard work that you do. And we seek to thank you through feeding back into the communities in which we serve. Once again, my name is Antonio Silas. I'm the Baltimore City Extension Director for University of Maryland. I've been in this position for about 1.5 years. I see some familiar faces in the room. During that time, I've been doing a lot of meeting people, a lot of seeking to understand the challenges, the opportunities, the goals of the urban farmer community in and around Baltimore. And once again, you all fit a critical need in terms of your profession. You feed your communities, you contribute to the economy. And as someone who comes from a farmer, my mother was a farmer in Arkansas, I'm just intrinsically tied to the work that you all do. So I just really want to say thank you for that. So, does everyone know what extension is? I don't want to assume, because a lot of people don't. If you don't, okay, thank you to be honest, I appreciate that. So I'm going to give you just a very brief rundown of what extension is. Extension is a non-formal education system that is dedicated to providing research-based solutions, to challenges faced by different communities. We are associated with land-grant institutions, their colleges of agriculture. We represent University of Maryland, and there are extension offices in every county in Maryland, just for some perspective. So many of you may know of our work through NIA, but we also offer different programs. We have a home horticulture educator and master gardener program, which is dedicated to horticulture. We have financial literacy educations. Shout out to Mr. Michael Alonge back there in the back recording. We have 4-H, which is dedicated to youth engagement and STEAM in Baltimore City. We have digital literacy. Our programs are growing. So we have a little bit of something for everyone. Most of the time when people hear of extension, they hear of us through a particular avenue. But I would like to sincerely welcome you to interact in terms of whatever way makes the most sense. Obviously, you're here to learn more about urban ag, but we also want to invite you to learn more about us in general. The last thing I'll say, we seek to be a part of the community. No one has all of the answers. The way that we are able to make a lot of our community impact is alongside community partners, some of which we have over here. Please make sure to leverage the resources here today. Obviously, I assume that's why you're here, but I just really want to double down on that. If there's any way that we can support you moving forward, please do not hesitate to contact me or myself. I'll be around for most of the class today. Once again, just really want to say thank you. This is super exciting. Anything that extension can do to support you in your critically important work. Please do not hesitate to leverage us as a resource. Very much looking forward to getting to know everyone a little bit better. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for being here today.
I'm just pulling up the next set of slides. There we go. Too many buttons. Okay. So, I know we're running, I think we're almost back on time, we're getting there, we'll get you there. Just a couple of quick updates from Extension. I wanted to squeeze in, our. Oh, is this working? Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Come on. There we go. Oh, yes, very important. We are public servants. We are cooperatively funded by local, state, and federal dollars, and because of that, it is our responsibility to make sure we are serving everyone in the state of Maryland as broadly as possible and without any form of discrimination. This slide is about your rights as a program participant. If you feel like you've been discriminated against, there are people you can file a complaint with. We also are required to try to collect information to show whether we are doing our jobs to reach everyone in the state of Maryland. So I would like to ask you to fill out one of these forms. Do not put your name on it. It is anonymous, and then leave it at the table when you head out to share demographic information with us voluntarily so that we can then check whether we are walking our talk. Thank you. All right, in update number 1. Has anyone have a nutrient management plan already? Awesome, very good. So you know what I'm talking about, probably everyone else does not. In Maryland, if you sell at least $2,500 worth of farm products, or if you have a lot of livestock, which is generally not the issue that I deal with in urban areas, you are required to have a nutrient management plan written by a certified planner. We have folks on our team who can write these plans for you or train you how to write themselves. Write them yourself. If you would like help with this process, contact your local extension office. In Baltimore, that's me. Elsewhere, there's another office. There's a little, I think I printed some of those out. We will need information from you. We'll need soil tests. We'll need your plan of what you're gonna grow. If you've got livestock, we'll need a manure test. I'm going through this pretty fast because I want to get us back on time. But the basics is, if you need to comply with this law, we can help you. Other update, I'm so excited. We have hired 2 new state urban agriculture extension specialists funded by the state legislature a couple years ago. We finally got through the funding process and the hiring process. It's going to be their job to work across the state of Maryland in urban areas, doing applied research that is relevant to your needs and then teaching classes that are relevant to your needs. So we're starting in February and March. There are their start dates. We've got Dr. Xuan Wei, who's going to be focusing on farm management and agribusiness. That's her photo in the upper right-hand corner. And then we've got Dr. Chanwen Liu, who's going to be focusing on production methods. So things like vegetable production and planting calendars and pest management and anything that she decides to focus on and that you tell her is important. She's going to develop a research and education program related to the production side of things. We also here in Baltimore City have just hired our new master gardener coordinator. Yes, I'm so excited. And his home horticulture educator. His name is Demetros Stevens. That's his photo here. He just started last week. So he's brand new. But if you are a master gardener, we've got someone back to help you out. If you're interested in home gardening, community gardening, this is going to be your guy. We are also hiring. So if you want to come work with us, take a QR code picture, however that works. If you're in Southern Maryland, we're hiring an ag and food systems agent. For the nutrient management program, we are hiring nutrient management advisors in Caroline County, Montgomery County, Washington County, and Worcester County. And we're also hiring a program director. And then starting in March, I don't know if anyone ever met Jerry Brust. He's come up to speak a couple times. He was our vegetable sustainable pest management specialist. And he's retired, so we're gonna hire a new vegetable production specialist at the state level. And it sounds like we're gonna be hiring a ruminant specialist too, which is news to me from there. So I hope I'm not getting it wrong. Thank you, and please reach out to us with any questions. Now I'm gonna hand it over to Andrea. And if you, last announcement, if you did not sign in, when we have a break, when you have a second, please sign in, because that's how I make sure that they don't yell at me when I give them the lunch receipts. Okay, so I'm gonna hand it over to Andrea and pull up her slides.
There it is. Sorry. Great, I'm Andrea Franchini. I'm the program assistant for agriculture and food systems. I'm in the Baltimore City office. With Nia and Antonio and Michael Longbay. So we are working on, in collaboration with the Agricultural Law Education Initiative here with Megan Todd. To gather examples and policies and case studies from across the US to educate municipalities on their options for supporting urban farmland tenure. And part of the reason is that, but also just to support a more coordinated effort for urban farmland tenure. And when I say that, I'm also including areas for controlled environmental agriculture, buildings, etc. And to increase understanding of processes for accessing urban farmland tenure and more secure urban farmland tenure. So I am inviting you, me and Megan.
Yeah.
To fill out a survey. So this survey, one QR code is both for service providers, agricultural service providers, and for urban farmers. The service provider one is about 5 minutes. The farmer one is more like 10-15 minutes. But your input is really important to us. It'll ask questions about your farming practices. If you have farmland tenure, if you're looking, if you don't have it, what your process was around gaining urban farmland tenure and zoning. There's also an opportunity for both surveys to leave your information if you would like to potentially be interviewed to go into deeper about your processes for accessing urban farmland tenure and secure urban farmland tenure. Unfortunately, I have to leave early, but Megan is here and she'll be talking later. And she can help answer any questions. And I think on one of the slides is my contact information. And that's it. Thanks.
Andrea, just real quick, now say something?
Yeah.
I just want to double down on what Andrea is saying, the way that we're able to affect you, to support you to maximum efficiency is by hearing from you. So your perspective, your experiences, this means a lot to us and it allows us to tailor courses like the one that you're sitting in right now. So if you do have a few minutes, we would sincerely appreciate it because it allows us to do our job a bit better. So thank you so much in advance.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Antonio. And, to find the gaps in accessing this land tenure. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. And I just need to say, Andrea is my right-hand person. I would have forgotten half of everything that I needed without her. She's amazing. All right. I left my copy of the agenda out there, but I believe Bill is up next. Would someone who has an agenda check for me? Maryland Department of Agriculture is next. Yeah, Bill and Colleen. Excellent. So Pauline is stuck in traffic somewhere, so we just, sweet, all right. We might give her a second to settle in and we'll have Bill speak first.
Thank you. I do not have a PowerPoint. I decided to just have a conversation with you all today. So please, at any point in time, if you have a question, just raise your hand, speak out loud. I would much rather have a dialogue back and forth. But so again, my name is Bill Tharp. I'm the program administrator for the Small Farm and Urban Agriculture Program at the Maryland Department of Agriculture. Wow, that's a lot. 2 years ago, this program didn't even exist. It wasn't even on paper. It wasn't even a thought. So, I have been given a blank sheet of paper to come up with financial assistance programs for urban and small farms. So currently, I have, two active programs. One is a small acreage cover crop program. At this point in time, any operation, any agricultural operation in the state of Maryland can get financial assistance for planting a cover crop. I have one Baltimore farm represented today. It was the 6th branch, put in about what, 6,000, 10,000 square feet of cover crop this year. Yeah, so it's that, it's not acres and acres and acres of cover crop that needs to be planted by a single operation. So every square foot of cover crop helps not only your soil on your site, but it also helps with the, sedimentation and runoff to Chesapeake Bay in general. So small acreage cover crop program, covers, operations that plant up to 10 acres. Is capped at $1,500 annually. It emphasizes both summer and winter cover crop implementation. So, an individual, a nonprofit, a for-profit business entity are all eligible for the small acreage cover crop program. Expenses that are covered are, the cost of seed, which could include shipping if you're ordering online. Labor up to a certain dollar amount per hour. And that is for paid staff of the operation, the owner of the operation and anyone who physically actually works for the farm. Could be expenses for hand equipment or equipment that's used to implement the cover crop program. Or if you brought somebody in and actually had them plant it, for you. So, custom services, equipment rental or purchase, seed and labor. That's what that $1,500 will cover for an annual cost for cover crop. Anybody have any questions about cover crop?
Minimum acreage,
Yep.
like less than an acre?
Yep, 10,000 square feet was 6th branch did quarter of an acre. So we will look at it down to the 1,000 square foot. A raised bed. We want to make sure that you're provided with the ability to get reimbursed for what you do when it comes to cover crop.
Who's the best person to talk to about planning the cover crop, like knowing which cover crop to use and how to plant things?
Well, I think Extension could give a little bit of help on that. I know that there's standards and specifications that we follow for cover crop from NRCS. I also think that there is plenty of information from the seed dealers themselves. I think the smaller operations are going to focus on mixes. And those mixes can be either custom, they can be pre-made, they can, so who you're buying your seed from is also a resource that you should be using. If you are using a single seed, we want to focus on a cereal grain. So that's rye or wheat or oats or barley. But if you're doing mixes, we want to recommend up to, use 3, but you can use as many as you want, depending on where you're getting your seed from. There's legumes that you can use that will help with nitrogen fixation in for your crop the following spring or in the fall, depending on if you're doing summer or winter. So I think utilizing all the resources that you possibly can, and a lot of them are already in this room today, which is good to see. So cover crop sign up for 2024. It has not been officially, announced yet, but it is most likely going to be in the March and April months. Usually the window stays open for 4 or 5 weeks, and it covers the entire growing season. So if you want to plan on doing summer cover crops and fall cover crops, you would sign up all together at one time during that sign period in March or April. All right, and payment is a little bit different because we want to try to get the dollars in your pocket as soon as we possibly can. So once the cover crop is implemented and myself or a staff of MDA goes out and looks at it, make sure that it's been planted, it's all doing well, that's when you can request the payment for reimbursement at that time. So that's a little bit different than our traditional cover crop program that waits till the following spring or after termination. So trying to get dollars in your pockets as soon as we can. The next program is based off legislation that happened in 2022 by Delegate Boyce from Baltimore City. It's the Urban Agriculture, Water and Power Infrastructure Grant. That provides funding up to 87.5% of the cost for the installation of water or an electric utility. And that is either the public utility from the water main into the water meter, and even on-site improvements from your meter to the end use item, sprinkler, wash rack, fans, from electric, from transformer to meter, from meter to outlet. So again, it's been a brand new program. I'm working through the first few, applications right now, and actually am getting ready to make the first payment to two producers in the state. And that is funded for, this current fiscal year and 3 fiscal years continue. So it's $500,000 a year. So we are guaranteed $2 million to go into infrastructure installation over the next 4 years. Anybody have any questions about that? Who has water issues in their operation? Okay, this is a program that can provide a water source that is not trucked in from offsite. It's not stuck in a stagnant little, tank that can grow algae in it during the summer months when you're trying to go back and forth to get this. Electric, does everybody have electric to run their fans, to run a heater, to run, whatever, Again, this is a that utility. So, if you have any questions, that is one of the ones I'm pushing right now, and that is specific to urban ag in the state of Maryland. Now, urban areas are defined by using United States Census Bureau data, or you're located within a municipality recognized by the state of Maryland. So Baltimore City's boundary, you're 100% in an urban area designated. You have all the peripheries between DC and Baltimore, and then you have all the municipalities from Western Maryland all the way down to the Eastern Shore. So it is a statewide program. So and the last program I want to talk about is again from legislation, but from 2023, so a year ago. And then right now it is only called the Urban Ag Grant. It is with the department is working with an advisory committee, which NIAF is on. As you all probably know, Farmer Chippy, he is on, and then Liz Robinson from PG County is also on, and Allison Warman from, she's representing the Baltimore City Department of Planning. So this group is assisting me with the development of a new financial assistance program for urban agriculture operations. I cannot provide identifying expenses yet because we haven't gotten that far in the development of the program. I believe that this is a program that is going to be utilized by a lot of folks. And I think the money's going to run out pretty quick. There's only $100,000 per fiscal year for 5 years. My hope is we can get this program developed. It can go towards items that will be eligible for urban ag operations. And then we can identify another source to increase the amount of money that will go into that grant. So I know there was a lot of stuff thrown at you. NIAF has my contact information. I am willing to talk to anybody about anything urban ag, small farm related, so that I can provide my input, my 2 cents, and hopefully some financial assistance in the long run. Anybody have any questions?
You got us back on time, so if you have questions, when you have time.
All right, yes.
So we did apply. Needed a nutrient management plan or a waiver, and I've been having a hell of a time giving one.
Yeah.
So is there a particular contact who can do either the waiver or do the, nutrient management plan?
Yeah, we've got a form. There was a little hiccup this summer, but we're accepting applications to get the plans written for you right now, so. I will email you the information I need from you to get you on our list. I will admit, extension might be a little slower, so if you're in a hurry, it might be worth hiring someone to do it real fast, but if you want it free.
Yeah, I mean, there's time. I mean, really, in your situation specifically, I know that you would like to have the utility as soon as possible. So, but I also know that, you know, finances are an important part of making those decisions. So depending on whether or not you utilize extensions and services, to receive a waiver, you have to prove that you do not generate less than or more than $2,500 annually. You know, so, and then, you know, that waiver would be dealt with the regional nutrient management specialist who is out of the Baltimore County Ag Center.
And the revenue question, this is what was confusing. Is it in produce sales only, or can like the penny sale, value-added products, and all of that factor?
If it's defined as an agricultural product, which honey is under that definition, it would have to be all cumulative agricultural products.
And I guess similarly, can folks apply if they're like working on their nutrient management plan, or does it have to be actually completed by the date of application?
So the question is can the application be submitted prior to actually having your nutrient management plan in hand? The answer is yes. We can go through the steps to, you know, get to that point of approval, but without the nutrient management plan, there's a certification form in your plan that needs to be provided to the department as proof of having your nutrient management plan compliance. You know, we are just unable to make the approval, but we can go through the steps so that once you have it, we're ready to go through the approval process and not have to, you know, generate the agreements and, you know, things like that, so.
I guess that's a question for us. I have an idea. At what point do I come to you? Do I need to identify it, outline it? Do I need to be already experimenting?
I can have a conversation with you when it's just a dream or a vision.
Okay.
You know, depending on where you are in the stage of the operation is going to determine whether or not, you know, the programs, you'll be eligible for the program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like I said, I love to talk about this stuff. You know, I've been out to Tim's place. You know, I've been out to a lot of, Farm Alliance, the 6th branch, out to Liz's place in PG. I love to talk about this stuff. And there's no vision that's too like out there for me. And I enjoy these kind of conversations. So, all right. There we go. I'm gonna cut it off. Thank you.
Bill. These are some really exciting programs going on. All right, I'm gonna share your slides. Ta-da, magic. All right, I'm also really excited. So so excited that MDA has these new programs and has Bill running them. He has been out to so many farms. I'm so excited as well that Colleen is here to talk about the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Services, Technical Assistance and Cost Share Programs. Eric has been dedicatedly beating his head against the USDA processes to get urban farms into their cost share programs for longer than the 8 years I've been here. And Colleen has been making some really excellent strides in the past year on figuring out some new and innovative ways to apply USDA programs to urban farms. So I'm really excited to hear how you tell us about those.
Cool. All right, let's see.
I might need to push the slides.
That's fine. What do I have to?
To 145.
Oh, okay, I got little. Okay, cool. Well, this is like a slightly longer presentation, so I'll probably just skip through some of this, but I did give all the slides to Nia so that she can send it out and you guys can go back and look at it at a later time.
But my name is Colleen Kiefer. I'm the district conservationist with Natural Resource Conservation Service. I work out of the Prince George's office, but we also are servicing Washington DC and Baltimore City, trying to put more focus with me and my relatively new staff on, getting better program outreach to everybody in this room. I'm just gonna go through a few different things.
Oh, sorry, hold on. That's my
Sorry.
fault. There we go.
Okay, so we have a few different programs I'm gonna talk about today. The first two are kind of very similar. They all operate almost identically to each other. That's EQIP, which is our Environmental Qualities Incentive Program. This is probably our most common program that you may have heard about. Things to know about it is that both of these programs act very similarly. They are not grants. They are what we call cost share. If those of you in the room are not familiar with the term cost share, what that means is that these are reimbursement payments that are made. They don't necessarily cover the entire cost of the practice, although they may. It is a reimbursable program, and we'll get into more of the details on that in a bit, but it is different than a grant. And that the biggest difference being that we really put together your application packets for you, we'll request different information from you, and then kind of walk through that process for you, rather than in like a more typical grant scenario where you're having to create that whole package for yourself. The EQIP program is available to individuals, businesses, nonprofits. Basically the only people that aren't really eligible are like government entities. And then AMA is a very similar program to EQIP, although for this year and for most years, it is able to fund brand new irrigation projects. With EQIP, well, you can get into the details of that too, but AMA doesn't usually have nearly as much money as EQIP. It's a smaller amount of money, but it does have that one nuance where we can fund brand new irrigation projects.
Are you planning to talk more about that?
Yeah, that's just a brief, we'll get into it more. Okay. So I just want to go through, in case people aren't aware, some of the more common urban conservation practices that we fund and that we can work with you on through both EQIP, well, mostly through EQIP. The first one and most common one is our high tunnels. Real quick, just some of the highlights on high tunnels are you've probably seen them before, right? They're the big plastic structures. They do need to be a minimum of 6 feet tall. All the crops that you grow in them, this is a big important one, is they need to be grown in ground or in raised beds. So these structures, unfortunately, at this time are not able to be used to do on tables, greenhouse type work, or like hydroponic work that would be raised up like that. It needs to be grown in the ground, and that is a requirement that we are unable to get around at this point. They also need to have roll-up slides, so you can't it needs to be made of, that 6 mil plastic and not, your harder frame greenhouse type plastic. The end walls, you can kind of do what you want, but that's just something to know. And it needs to have a 4-year manufacturer warranty on it, which means it needs to be a kit purchased from a company. So you're not able to design and build your own. You do need to purchase. In order to qualify for this program, you do need to buy a kit. There's a lot of companies that you can purchase them from. Almost every company who manufactures high tunnels makes them to our standard, but it is something just to be aware of. I'm sorry. A few other things is that the high tunnels cannot be used to house livestock or equipment. So you can't use this as your garage, and you cannot use this as your chicken house as well. And in order to be eligible, because we're always treating resource concerns, it's important to know that for these, the justification that we can pay for them is that we are improving plant condition, which means that you do need to have crops currently growing in order to qualify for this program. You also, it's really helpful if you know what size and the location of where you want them to go. We're not able to complete your contract without knowing the size and location. This determines a lot of things on our end as far as your payment rate and other things like that. So that's really, if you're interested in getting one, it's really good to know where you want to put it and what size you're looking at. There are also higher payment rates available for smaller tunnels, and if you are renting land or on land that you do not personally own, you are going to need landowner permission. So that's something to be aware of, for the high tunnels. Okay, low tunnels, this is a new standard for us, this is a new practice. In the past, we always had the high tunnels, but because of land, sometimes it's hard or if not impossible to get your landowner to sign up permission for that. So low tunnels, it's, you know, we have our typical low tunnels that we think of, right? But this can be anything up to 4 feet, so it can actually cover some of the smaller caterpillar tunnels as well. This is great because this does not require landowner permission in order to apply for those. So if you are in a situation where you are trying to get season extension, but you were not able to get a landowner to sign off on something, this might be a good alternative for you as well. And the other thing with that is it can be used for plastic, but it can also be used for shade and like insect netting and things too. So it has a few different uses. Raised beds, this has probably become our most popular practice in the last year. So this is basically paying for raised beds. It's pretty straightforward. It pays on a square footage basis. The biggest things to know about them is they cannot be more than 32 inches in height. That is our, we're not able to certify them higher than that. But there is an ability to build ADA compatible, accessible raised beds through our program. The other thing is that in order to qualify for this, we need to have a soil scientist who we have on staff who will come out, but we'll need to schedule time to have our soil scientists come out and determine if you have rubble or heavy metals present. And we do offer free heavy metal testing for that. Also, even if you don't want raised beds and you would just like free heavy metal testing, please let us know and we can work on getting a site visit set up with you for that. You're able to make them out of wood, metal. It's relatively flexible on what you can build them out of, but they are meant to be last up to 5 years. So they do need to be kind of held together, fastened together. It doesn't necessarily need to be through a kit, but it needs to, you know, meet that basic requirement. Just a few other things that I want to make you aware of. Some of these we're still kind of in the process of figuring out how to bring them down to like the urban smaller scale level is heavy use protection, which you may not know what that means, but basically what that is, we've been using that as is like a gravel geotech pathways that we're using to prevent erosion around raised beds and to which they also have the added bonus of making places ADA accessible, and we are able to design those to get those 2% slopes and, you know, make it fully ADA accessible. And that's been becoming more popular to do. The pollinator plantings, we do a lot with permanent pollinator plantings that are using native species, but we also have some other options for that I can talk about later. Soil health practices are always available, cover cropping, crop rotation, nutrient management, reduced till, no till, those are all practices that we can pay on and we do have small scale rates for them. Micro irrigation is something that we are just in the process of bringing on enough staff to really be able to get those systems out to people. It's something we've been backlogged on for sure. But we are, again, this is for improving efficiency on existing systems if you want to go through Egypt. So in some cases, that may be something as simple as like you have a hose hooked up to a neighbor's house that's not reliable and you're hand watering things, or in a lot of cases, people are bringing in, you know, giant tankers in or filling them up from the fire hydrant and trying to irrigate through those. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an existing system, or it can, there's a lot of variations of what an existing system can be, I should say, but we're just, yeah, like I said, we're just starting to get to the point where we're really able to get through those more. And so I'm hoping that in the coming years, that'll be something we're able to provide more reliably to folks. Same with composting facilities. We are just starting to learn how we can do those. And we're working with some guinea pigs right now on that. But doing things like in-vessel rotary composting is in there, as well as like tube-in systems with like a pad. So we're still working on how to do those, but we are learning, and I think in, the next 6 months, we're gonna have a much better handle on what those can look like and how we can pay for those.
Could those be mechanical composting facilities, like if we wanted to have like a digester or something?
There's some options, we're still gonna learn it, yeah, it's like in vessel and rotary, so they're definitely like electrically hooked up. We've done them, similar things on horse farms elsewhere in the state. So we're kind of trying to use that model to bring it down to like this level and, the way that urban farm work is obviously very different than horse farm.
Do you know the limit on that yet?
I don't know that there's a limit, but it is limited by on-farm composting, so it would not be, you would not be able to do something where you're bringing in large amounts of municipal waste, like on a large scale and processing that way, but if you had like within your, if you have like a community garden and the community's bringing in like their local, food waste and things like that, and then everything that's produced on the farm, that's kind of what the limit is right now, and there's been some small changes to that, to kind of make it more accessible for urban farms that we didn't have in the past, so. But yeah, like if you're looking at large scale commercial size, like that's not gonna probably be on this level, it needs to be from the operation. So. The other things I just want to point out is roof runoff is also a practice that we have. That is for, if you have your pack sheds and you're getting erosion from those, that might be something that we can help with. And then additionally, we have started working with energy audits and energy efficiency on certain types of buildings, especially greenhouses, and we are we're learning how that's all gonna work. I think Eric has one this year, so we're slowly learning how to do these things. It's not always super self-explanatory on our side, but these are things that we are looking at offering, and once we have done them a few more times, hopefully they'll be a little more seamless going through. All right. Okay, so for how the payment works for EQIP and AMA is, these, like I said before, all the payments are reimbursable and, all the payments are made via direct deposit. There is also advanced payments. Those are only available through EQIP. If you sign up for AMA, you're not eligible for an advanced payment. And what that is that if you are a historically underserved producer, which can be socially disadvantaged, beginning farmer, limited resource, or a veteran, then you can get up to 50% of your contracted amount in advance of installing whatever practice it is. There are some caveats to this, but it gets tricky when you don't exactly know what the end amount is gonna be. But for high tunnels, it's usually pretty straightforward. Bring us your invoice, we know exactly what size you're bidding, and then you can get 50% of what our contract rate is, not necessarily the price of the tunnel, but the price that you were contracted for, you can get in advance, which can help to pay for some of these things. It needs to be requested prior to purchasing materials. Like I said, you may need an invoice, and if you receive an advance payment and it's issued and you do not end up spending that money, you will be required to pay it back. The other thing I didn't list here is that if you do get an advance payment, you can wait till you're ready to request it, but then once you do request it, you will be required to spend that money in 90 days, and that's a hard 90 days that money needs to be spent. So just something to consider when you're thinking about an advance payment. They can be super helpful and they're a great opportunity, but they do come with a couple strings attached as well, and that can be difficult for some people sometimes. Okay, the next program I want to talk about, this one's a little bit newer, but it's one that we've had a good amount of success with the last year. This is Conservation Stewardship Program, CSP. This is a kind of a different program than EQIP. I tend to explain this program as more of a rewards program. So it's meant to do, basically it's, we go out and we'll do an inventory, we'll walk with you around your farm, take note of all of the good things that you are doing to, promote sustainability, promote conservation on your farm. If you're cover cropping, if you have some bird boxes up, things like that. We'll take note of that. We take it all back with us, throw it in the computer. And then as long as you meet a certain level of stewardship, then you are eligible for this program. in most cases, if you don't have just like a ton of erosion, you know, if you've got pretty much everything's covered and like a lot of your farms probably are, they're in pretty good shape because you're taking good care of the land. You'll likely qualify for this program. If you have animals in waterways, then that's probably a no. If you have a ton of erosion, that's usually a no, but, you know, it's, but anyway, so it's a rewards program for those who are good stewards of the environment. There's two different categories. So there's ag land, which is probably the most common that we run into in the city especially, but there is also, another, forest, if you have private forest land, that is also eligible, and you can actually have 2 contracts if you have both of those. The things to know about CSP, it's a 5-year contract. There is a minimum payment of $4,000 a year. You will never not have a contract that's less than $4,000 a year. And that's for 5 years, so that's $20,000 over the course of your contract. Typically, what's required with you, other than just having that base level sustainability stewardship threshold, is that you need to also agree to do something that's above and beyond. So say you are kind of rotating your crops, but maybe you also want to add some intercropping into your system, like doing some radishes and some peas together. That's an example of one of our enhancements. Another one is a lot of folks have been doing a certain amount of sunflowers in their rotation to add annual pollinators. And that's another example of one of those practices. So they're usually things that are relatively inexpensive to implement. So a lot of that $4,000 is coming back to your operation to be spent on, you know, maintaining that stewardship, your stewardship, and, you know, other things that can get on the farm. So do you have a question?
Does the min 4,000 mean like there's a minimum size that has to happen to like qualify for the program?
It's just a minimum payment. It's actually gone up. It used to be 1,500, and now it's gone up to 4,000. There's no minimum acreage size. So yeah, any farm was eligible for that.
One of the reasons this is really exciting is a lot of the USDA programs, you go through the process and it would work out to pay, you know, $10, $20 an acre. And for urban farmers, that doesn't work. So the fact that there is a minimum on this is what's making it very exciting for urban growers.
Yeah, and like a lot of our soil health practices, we do have small scale payments through EQIP, but some people are finding that it's just easier to go through CSP. It's more with your time to fill out all the paperwork to go through CSP for some of those more like, you know, general things like that.
I'm going to take us back a little bit, the houses, you talked about landlord permission if you're renting. You also require city permits for infrastructure.
Sorry.
Do you require any permit from the city, for instance?
So the only time that I think permits really come up, although Eric just left, definitely, but yeah, I think like grading usually raises some red flags. I know that comes up, and I know there's high tunnel stuff in Baltimore.
Yeah, it is a good idea to check what the permit rules are in your location, because if you get shut down by your local municipality while you're halfway through the process, that is a headache that you don't want to deal with. And there are, depending on the size of the high tunnel, there are some permits you might need. In Baltimore City, a high tunnel is a temporary structure. In other jurisdictions, it's not. There's impermeable surface permits, there's soil disturbance permits. So, yeah.
What are the conditions of the 5-year contract?
Like, is there anything like specific? Basically you're agreeing to maintain your level of stewardship. So, you know, keeping things kind of as they are, or at least in like the stewardship level, right? So if you have crop growing and you're doing your crop rotation, it is kind of expected that you will continue to rotate crops and, you know, just maintain that stewardship. And then the other thing is that you do need to install your enhancement as it's scheduled. So those are usually the last 4 years you're doing a practice. That's not always the case, but that's often the case. Like if you were doing like the sunflowers, it would just be putting those in for 4 years. And maintaining control of the land.
Is that's what reporting looks like too? Reporting.
Yeah, reporting, usually, you know, we, depending on what it is, either taking some pictures or we'll come out and just like certify that it's there. You know, most of them, a lot of them are not overly complicated things to certify, but, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty simple. And yeah, okay, I think, is there another slide for this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, wait, I think, yes, is this different? This is different.
Yeah, that's different. Okay, yeah, just other things to know about this program, you are meant to incorporate your entire operation, so if you have multiple farms, especially if you specifically own those properties, those are required to be in there. If you rent them, but you don't think that you're gonna have, you don't know that you're gonna be able to maintain control and you don't want to include them, then that's like, we can kind of pull some of those out. We have some flexibility there, but just knowing that you can, each property would not have its own CSP contract. They would all need to be included in one. That can sometimes increase your payment, which is good. Yeah, just something to pay attention to is just each individual farm. So if, anyway, if you have more questions on that, I can talk about it, yeah.
It's probably wouldn't apply, but what about if one of your farms is like a controlled, like one of ours is a warehouse? and one is
Yeah.
land? Like that we wouldn't have to do anything with that, right?
Yeah, it's all based on your farm FSA records, so everything that you have listed with Farm Service Agency, if it's listed as owned by you, then that's gonna be required to pull in. I'm not totally sure how much, like, I don't know how we're gonna do it, we'll figure it out, obviously, but like, again, with a lot of this stuff, we are kind of figuring it out as we go, so yeah. That'll be fun. Yeah.
I have a question in terms of the two categories that you can apply for.
Yeah.
What happens if you qualify for both and you wanted to use funding for
You can only, like I said, you can only have one like ag land CSP contract. It needs to have everything in it that you want to have in it. But forestry is its own sector, so you can have an ag land and a forestry one. So, and the same thing, it's like all the forestry land that you own could go into that one. So that is the opportunity where you can have two CSP contracts. Yeah.
Thank you.
The raised bed grant, does it pay for just the raised beds or soil as well?
So the way it's designed is, and this is similar to everything that we do, we just pay on a square footage. So regardless of how tall you go, regardless of what you build it out of, we're just paying you, I think this year it's $7.51 per square foot on your raised beds. That does tend to cover more than just the framing of it. So it is intended that the cost of material is in there. Now, is it going to cover the whole cost? It really depends on, a lot of things, obviously, but you'll know exactly how much money you're getting per square foot when you sign the contract, and you can kind of make those choices based on that. Yeah.
Can you review the processes you mentioned for the solution program? I know you said something about bird houses and properly.
So, okay, to be fair, there's hundreds of them. To the next slide. Yeah, so this is, of all the hundreds that are out there, these are probably the most common ones we've been using on cropland and urban. There are certainly more than this. But I think, doing things like cover cropping, this is like a permanent pollinator habitat. We've done some soil health or increased organic matter, which is working with you. We'll come out, we'll do a soil health test with you every year for the 4 years and kind of monitor, how the soil organic matter is improving and kind of help to plan a crop rotation that's gonna increase that. There's also, like I said, intercropping has been a pretty easy one for folks to do, mulching for soil health. If you're looking into bringing more mulch to kind of build that organic matter, that's also been pretty popular. There are more. The thing I always suggest is if you are interested in this program, the easiest thing is to come out, we can come out, schedule a site visit and sort of talk about what things you have, and then we can try to help to like find the things that are maybe guide you in the right direction, give you some like more realistic options so you don't have to look through everything. But we do have like a worksheet with this, that's some of the crop down ones. But then there's also online, if you care to venture onto farmers.gov, it's not the most intuitive site, but you can see all however many of them there are too, and you can find that information that way. But I think in general, it has been a little bit easier to have us come out and try to help with that decision, and find something that's gonna fit for y'all. Yeah, so I think, I can't remember what else is in here. Okay, I'll just go through this really quick. These, I just wanted to kind of put out the steps of how you apply. Like I just kind of mentioned before, the first thing to do if you're really interested is to give us, okay, we're good. Is to give us, a call or an email. Calls are generally better. Because we get a little overwhelmed right now, but, it will schedule a site visit, and come out and kind of talk you with the options. Yes, these will go quick. The next thing is if you haven't already, to establish records with Farm Service Agency. I know they're over here. You'll need a farm and track number in order to be eligible for any of our programs. So that's always a good thing to work on. If you don't have one, we can, bring some of that paperwork out to have you. The next thing is that we will work with you to develop a conservation plan. That's kind of the base of any application or any application packet we would submit for you. That's identifying all the practices that you want to work on, including ones that maybe you're not getting cost share for, but things that you're working on. And it's just a nice documentation to show the conservation goals of your farm. And then the next is submitting the application. Honestly, a lot of times we'll probably just do it on the site visit because we're out there and we're with you and it's easier. This year, we are, in terms of like applying for this year, just to understand where everyone knows where we're at, we've been desperately understaffed for the last year and a half. And we finally have staff that are coming on, but we have a big backlog. So right now, there is the possibility that any application that gets submitted right now could go for funding. But because we have to work through that backlog, I would say it's more realistic that applications that you would submit today would be for next year. It's still an option that they could be funded this year, but just to let everyone know, we are working through quite a bit of a backlog, but we do have a bunch of great people that have just come on staff in the last month. So we're training them up and trying to get them out there and working on things being thorough.
So if we did apply before December 15th, what's the typical, what's a timeline for payment?
Every year it depends. Yeah, so for this year, yeah, I think we should hopefully have some of the earlier ones submitted here soon. And we're actively working on doing that right now. So yeah, our hope is in the next month or so, we'll start signing contracts for people, but it's just kind of going down the list as they came in, trying to get it for everybody, so.
And then once you sign a contract, then what?
So-
Sorry, you're going.
Yeah, I guess you can go to the next slide. The timeline for this year is also kind of different. We do have ongoing applications. So just know at any time you can turn in an application. It's usually better to do it sooner rather than later so that we kind of know, it shows that you're serious about doing this and so yeah, at any point you can always turn in an application. It may not mean that you're gonna get funded next week, but it puts you on our radar and, make sure we don't lose track of you in the mix. But yeah, so then there's also just, submitting eligibility documentation will always be the next thing. This is probably everyone's least favorite part, and I fully understand. It's a lot of dense paperwork, but I think we have brought on a new guy into our office who is really good at explaining this stuff. So hopefully it's a little bit easier than it was in the past, but just so you know, it's we need the direct deposit information. There's AGI, we need to make sure you don't make more than $900,000 a year. We need to be HEL compliance, which is, it's something that I would say most people in the room don't really need to worry about, but that is a government requirement. We also need to know your business structure, and we need to know who has signing authority. And then if you are gonna need permission from your landowner, that's something we like to get ahead of, especially if you are in Baltimore City or Washington, DC, because sometimes it's just the mayor is listed and we need to figure out who can sign that, so. Which we've worked through before and it's fine, but it's better if we have more time to deal with it. And then. Yeah, well, it's getting to the answer to your question, sorry. Anyway, I think we kind of went through this before. This is who's eligible. The thing I do like to point out is, even if you're growing on public land, if you're a private entity, you are eligible, and community gardens are eligible as well. And I think we kind of went through that, so we can skip that for now. We kind of talked about that too, we can skip that for now. Okay, so then, get back to your question. So this is, the next things that happen are you go through pre-approvals, we submit your application, we get all the information, we get all the eligibility, we submit your application packet, and then you get selected for pre-approval. And then we have usually a month from that point where we're trying to get those contracts signed and obligated. Sometimes it's a little less than that too, but typically it's about a month to get all your contract documents. Then you will sit down, we'll sit down with you, we'll sign all the contract documents, go over everything, so make sure it's clear that you know what you're signing up for. And then once their contract is signed, from that point on, if it's an EPIC contract, you have a year to have installed the first something in your contract. So if it's a high tunnel, you're meant to have installed that high tunnel within that first year. If you have multiple things in your contract, you just need to install that first thing, usually in a year. And we usually try to build in flexibility to this contracts to make them easier for people. And then for CSP is kind of similar. You need to have installed your one of your enhancements or practices in that first year. That answer. No problem. The timeline is like, doesn't even matter for this year. Everything's very different. We have a lot of extra money with IRA and things right now, but yeah, for the upcoming years, I think we'll have continuous sign up. So I would just say, if you're interested, sign an application and get it in. And it may not be immediate, but we will, hopefully we'll get through this backlog and then we'll be up and running and you know, hopefully less than 6 months, but I'll be realistic, I guess. Okay, just one last thing I wanted to let you all know about is there is my office. We are your NRCS field office. However, if there is another office within NRCS that is not through us, it's kind of a separate thing, and that's the Office of Urban Ag and Innovative Production. They have a few different programs that you may be aware of already. One is their competitive grant program. That is a true grant program. You need to be a nonprofit or a government entity to apply, but it is money for a whole bunch of different things related to urban agriculture. And I think we've had at least one person in Baltimore and a few in DC that already received this grant. I will say it's gotten far more competitive over the last few years. But it is a great opportunity for some larger scale projects, especially if you have like maybe Farm Alliance or like a network of farmers all applying together. That seems to be where the better fit is. It's not usually just like an individual farm type of thing like some of our programs are. They also do, with local governments, there is a composting program, a cooperative agreement that a lot of local governments, I think, have already received. And then they also have we have the People's Garden, and that's where you can sign up your community garden to be part of the National People's Garden Network, I guess. And then I think there's also, just so you know, there are these annual equity and conservation cooperative agreements that are also given out. I don't know a ton about those. I know Susie does. So if you have questions about those, feel free to chat with her at a later point about that. But this is a little bit about what those are. And I know I'm running out of time here, so I don't know what's left in here. Oh, just wanted to let you know, if you haven't ever seen this before, you can Google Urban Ag Programs at a glance, and this will come up. And it is a digest. It's super helpful because farmers.gov can be a little crazy. It gives you a brief description of every single program that potentially affects or can benefit urban farmers. And just makes it a little bit easier when you're Googling to find the things that you're specifically looking for. So it's a really great resource. I really strongly encourage you to find that when you can. And Bill already went over his program, so I'll just leave that. And then this is my information as well as my two soil conservationists. If you are interested in setting up a site visit or have any questions, please let us know and we will do our best to get you something scheduled. So does anyone have any other questions?
It's just straight Colleen Kipper.
Yep, that's my name. Yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah, it turned blue on me. There's a period in the middle.
Between Colleen and.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I need to go fix that.
That's what I have a question. This thing on methane gases and composting. Supposedly, I think that the amount of food that we are throwing away is causing a tremendous amount of methane gas. Now, is that going into composting as well?
I think when it that comes more from when the food decomposes in an anaerobic environment in a
Yeah,
landfill. So
Yeah.
when you compost, you reduce the methane problem.
okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bill and Colleen. We have one more talk before the break on our agenda, but if you have not gotten your food yet, it is delicious. You should get some. Restrooms are out there if you need to self-break. One more talk and then we're gonna take a 15-minute break. If you wouldn't mind, at this point, now that you've actually hopefully learned some things, if you would start filling out the program evaluation. That would be very helpful. There will be more talks, but you know, you can get started on it. All right. Next up, we have Megan Todd, who's gonna be talking with us. Megan is my wonderful colleague from the Agricultural Law Education Initiative, and she is employed by the University of Maryland, Baltimore. And the Perry Law School, I think, is the official name. There we go.
All right, let's roll, because after this, I'm definitely gonna want to read. Okay.
I'm gonna have to be your slide advancer, sorry. Okay.
And I always have way too many slides, so if I don't get through it all, please feel free to always reach out to me. Okay. Yeah, so today I'm talking about legalities of direct marketing and focusing more specifically on online sales, issues or marketing concerns to be aware of and intellectual property, concepts.
Anyway, you could speak just a little more.
I will try, yes, okay, go ahead. Yeah, so ALEI, if you're not familiar with us, we've been around for about 10 years. We have a lot of free resources on our webpage, legal on a variety of legal topics. And if you go on your website, unagnlaw.org, and you don't find what you're looking for, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to do research questions for you and potentially do some grant applications to create a new resource. I will say, just like everybody else here, I'm currently overwhelmed. It's been just me since last July, but I will be getting some help pretty soon on a new legal fellow in the next month or two. So we'll have a little bit more capacity to help with questions and research. So just a little background information in terms of direct marketing. I don't think this will be a surprise to anybody here, right? But the value of foods are sold directly from farms to consumers in Maryland between 2012 and 2017, almost doubled. And with the new Census of Ag data coming out sometime this year, I'm hopeful and expecting that we'll see the continued upward trend, especially given the pandemic. Every consumers kind of in search of convenience and local food options. So can I just get a show of hands first though about how many people here who farm business have a web page? Okay, and how many of you have social media? You do marketing on social media, okay. What about an email newsletter or like a marketing listserv? Okay. Awesome. How many people are service providers or just, okay, so you talk to farmers who have these types of resources. Okay, and how many people are just thinking about setting up a farm business or just, all right, great. So this will hopefully be relevant to the majority of people in the room. Before I get into it, because I know I'm not going to make it all the way through, ALEI does have a variety of resources related to direct marketing. So we have, if you're interested in doing value-added production, we have a resource with decision trees to help you figure out which processing license you may need to get depending on what you want to make. So that's available on our page. We also have a legal guide to direct farm marketing, which is a sort of like shallow survey type resource to give you an overview of your direct marketing, sort of a checklist of go through these items like land use, zoning, health, value-added processing license, things like that. We also have a section on contracting basics. So if you're new to contracting, either like wholesalers, farmers markets, things like that, an idea of what to expect and what are the minimum requirements. And then again, more information about taking it online. So I'm going to cover today. There's a few other things too. This one. Images, we have a farmers market vendor agreement guide that kind of gives you the perspective both from the vendor and the market. You understand what those terms mean.
Because we always say, if you don't understand the terms of the contract, don't sign it. It's always better to, go out and ask questions, get clarifications before you sign anything and obligate yourself to abide by those terms. Okay, so let's start with the exciting things about marketing activities. We're gonna cover endorsements, a few things on intellectual property, a few aspects of commercial communication, so those emails. And I probably won't go too much in depth on cause-based marketing or the sweepstakes and contests, because those can get a little sticky, but information is in the slides for you to look through, and I don't want to get hung up on it, so we'll just kind of roll through those. Okay, so with endorsements, especially those for social media users, an endorsement is having other people help you promote your business or your products. And so I think most people are familiar with influencers. Most people I say because I don't usually, I'm not frequent on social media, but so you might be contracting with an influencer. Oftentimes it's a bigger brand, it might be a celebrity, but it could also be just a customer that's giving you really great reviews in the past. And they seem to be getting a lot of traction, and so you start to ask them, hey, would you mind reviewing this product? It's new. And if you give them a free product to review, that's going to become an endorsement. They have to disclose that. It might be that your farm business, you have, you gave your brother or sister or some other family member a little bit of an interest in the success of the company. So they have a vested interest in the success of your business, and they go to social media and they say, these are great products. This is a great farm. You should go visit. And the people online do not know that they have an interest in the success of your business. So that could be an endorsement as well. So it can be kind of sneaky. I mean, not just that you're contracting with an influencer, but you're kind of giving free samples, free products. You have a family member. Those can become endorsements if you don't disclose that relationship. Yeah. So up until now, there hasn't been like a concrete law. There have been guidelines by the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. But they are going through the process of proposing a law. So it might become, actual regulations. But even then, it's still something they can enforce based on the requirement for fair truth in advertising principles, basically. So previously, the recommendations haven't even referred to social media or influencers or customer reviews. It's really been up to administrative interpretations of Section 5 of the FTC Act. But like I said, that might change in the near future. For anybody who would love to sit for a few hours and listen to somebody talk about our practices or the new FTC guidelines for the use of endorsements and testimonials, Valerie Spar has a Consumer Finance Monitor podcast that lawyers talk on. It's very interesting. I think it's an interesting topic. But basically, what these principles or these guidelines go after is the idea of addressing advertisers that procure, suppress, boost, organize, or edit consumer reviews of their products or services in a way that distorts or otherwise misrepresents what a consumer would think of their products. So think about it, you have a distorted star rating. If you have a web page or your social media page and you get some bad customer reviews on it, and you decide, I don't want those to show up on my page. I'm just going to delete them. You might be distorting your customer's perception of what your product is like. I mean, you can't sue a person that gives you a bad review because they do have the right to give an authentic review of your product and to voice that. But you also have to be on your side where you can't distort that. You can't suppress it, or you can't, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, you can find it. You can't do things where you get a really great review for one product, and then you make it look like it applies to all of your products, or like a different product. It's for one specific thing. So those are kind of the things that you keep in mind for social media and your webpage, customer comments, things like that. If you're on like TikTok or Instagram promoting your items, or you have family members promoting your items, or your customer has a free product, you have to make sure that it's clear and conspicuous, that it could be an advertisement. So that will usually look like something like hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored. It has to be hard to miss and unavoidable. So that's a very clear language. I love it. But they do have things like, so, you know, in the little comments, you can review the description, and there's usually the little more button. You click more, it opens up. The hashtag ad or hashtag sponsor has to be above the fold. It can't be hidden underneath more. It has to be in the same medium as the advertisement. So if it's a TikTok, which I've heard, or like they usually have a video component and there's text on top of the video. So it has to be both audible. The person doing the advertisement or review the product has to say out loud, this is an advertisement, I received this product for free, but I'm giving my honest review. And also do a little text on the screen, because a lot of people watch those things without the sound on, right? So you have to be able to see it. And then also be in the description of the video. Oh, another thing, it has to have a clear contrast to the background of the video. You can't just put it on there and be like, it melds into the background. So it's like, I did it technically. No, people have to be able to see it clearly. Again, if they're kind of getting a kickback, or that's not the right word. I think it's a commission. An affiliate link that you provide to them if that's something you do. That also has to be disclosed in the description. And, you know, if they give a thank you, which I think happens often by some influencers, if they get a thank you in the video for their support or their sponsorship, they have to be pretty explicit about what they're thanking you for. So if you gave them a free getaway weekend on the farm, they should probably say that, right? Like, thank you for sponsoring a weekend for me and my family. Or thank you for the free product, not just a vague thank you, because the customer who is looking at your advertisement, they don't have a clear understanding of like, how much are they getting in exchange for putting this review up? So those are some of the endorsements for social media and webpage. I think it's relevant to viewers. They have to really understand the relationship between you and the endorser. There can be no line, of course, that's why we call it truth in advertising. And so this includes things like typicality and substantiation of the product. So, and the effects of the product. So if you're someone who is making like an herb tea blend, or you have like some sort of health claim related to your product, and then your advertisers or your family members who are promoting that product for you say, this helped me, like I have so much more vitality now, or I lost so much weight. You know, is that a typical experience for most people? Is that something they can substantiate? They can clearly connect that result to your products? Or was it something that happened sort of along with other changes in their lifestyle? Did they start a new workout routine at the same time? Did they change their diet altogether at the same time? Like, those are things that they have to take into consideration and really say, like, is this a typical, because if not a typical sort of effect of your product, they should say in the description, I also did, you know, in conjunction with exercise and diet changes, like I achieved this result, something like that. Let's see. Simple tagging or even a picture could be considered an endorsement if it's very positive, like it's a picture of these customers are having a blast. Oh my gosh, it's the best time. And your farm is like right there in the background. Like, we're here. This is the best time of my life. That could be considered an endorsement in some instances. Or just tagging that they're at your farm or having your product. So those could also potentially be if it's something they received for free, if it's something they have an interest in, that they should disclose as a potential advertisement or sponsored post. Yeah, that's that one. This is an example, pretty egregious, it's a company called Team ET back in 2020. I don't think they were farmers. I think they were just making a tea blend, and they had some celebrity endorsers, and they were making lots of claims about the health benefits of the products, curing cancer, I believe, or preventing cancer, helping with weight loss, things like that. They did not adequately disclose the connection, and it really blew up. It was a really popular product. I think it was Nicki Minaj was one of the sponsors. Anyway, the owners of the company, there was two owners, they did not oversee the activities of their endorsers. They didn't double check. And that's one thing I wanted to point out on the slide is, you know, the owners, they had You know, the endorsers they're individuals, right? How can you control everything that other people do? But it's your company, it's your product. And so it is gonna be your responsibility to kind of provide some oversight to what what your endorsers are doing. So if you notice they're not following the guidelines, if you notice they haven't said hashtag ad, or if they haven't made a connection for substantiation of your product's effectiveness, then you have to let them know or cancel. So they can amend the post or cancel a contract, if you have a contract with them. Because that was one of the things that they got dinged on. They got a $15 million judgment against them, including it going after their personal property. So yeah, they need business, yes, sir.
How are they doing now? Is TBT still a business?
Oh, they're not in business.
I was worried they like got super popular even more.
No, I think after that, they had to, each of them they went after their personal properties. So I don't even know if they may have incorporated a different business, but not under this one anymore.
And does any of this reflect back on the actual endorser, or is it just the maker of the product?
So it's mostly the maker of the product who is responsible for oversight, right? If the endorser didn't know, if they had contractual terms, they didn't know. I mean, yeah, it's mostly on the maker. Here's a few more examples of what the proposed rule would address in terms of endorsement activities. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have a question going back to the other, so once they, ideally, how did you mitigate that? Right, so let's say I have an endorsement for one of my clients that there is no, for instance, something like this, which is very popular, it's absolutely impossible to me to monitor any video through cell phone. So proactively, if you have a term in your contract with the person making the endorsement, should that not offer some protection?
It can offer some protection, absolutely, if it's in the contract. But you would also have to show some due diligence on your side that you have reviewed their posts either in advance of them posting it, or you go and then you visit their sites, their page, whatever it is, and look at those contents. I mean, are you talking about if you have a customer who's really happy with their product and they want to put a good review out?
No, even, I mean, I think in this context, you mentioned endorsement, in which I say the owner of the product would have a direct relationship with the endorser. However, I think that sort of formed within the framework of that contractual agreement and that fallout, it's just interesting, but I think has to be.
Yeah, so contractually, you can put out the terms that they have to abide by when they post, absolutely. And then there can be a breach provision, so if they fail, like if you notify them that, hey, you didn't comply with the terms of the contract that we agreed on, you have a period of time to fix it. Social media is like, I think it should be a very short time to fix it in that context. And then if they refuse to do so, or they fail to do so, that could be a condition for breach, in which case they would fail to get any of the benefits of the relationship. And you would just stop using them as an endorser.
But the FTC would still come after the product.
I think it depends a lot on the type of claim, like TNT was huge. You know, they had like Nicki Minaj, you know, like it's huge. I think if it's a smaller one, you might just get like a one. Yeah, but you don't want it to be you know, you have to have that document. That was the defense. Like, I was trying. I had the right intention.
What about, you know, there's some platforms that like solicit reviews from your customers that purchase products.
Yeah.
And they might say like, if you submit a review, you get 10% off your next purchase. Is that considered something that you then need to?
You get 10% off your next purchase from the producer?
From the store, yeah, like let's say you bought a mushroom kit from me and I sent you a follow-up email that says, hey, please review it. If you review it, you automatically get a 10% off your next order.
Ooh, that's tricky, because that is, they're giving it in. Yeah, and I'm guessing you have a relationship with the company that's soliciting the review?
Yeah, it's usually like, you know, an app or something that you can build into your like Shopify platform.
Yeah, and so those reviews, so they pop up or populate on the page, do they have a little disclaimer that they need a discount in exchange for their review?
Probably not.
They probably should, something like that, you know? Because that is the benefit, like they're only giving you that review because they're gonna get a benefit. It doesn't say that it has to be a good review, right? It could be a bad review and they still get a discount and buy it again. But, that's a benefit that you. Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, okay, so I think I touched on a lot of these things already. Review hijacking is a win where you kind of you switch over one product to another and tell me.
Oh.
This slide.
Got 10, a little over 10 minutes.
Okay, let's try to keep on. So another thing about, business considerations, you know, you're running a business, you got a lot of hats to wear. Trademark and copyright infringements. So these are some of the most common risks that you face when you try to market your products and your farm directly to your consumers. When it comes to infringement, it's just safe if you don't have written express permission or a license to use somebody else's trademark or their photos or the materials, safer to just not do it. Yeah. So just backgrounds, the trademarks are basically an identifying mark, it's like your logo, that you use in connection with any particular goods or services. So if you have one company, you'd have, you know, a farm, you have your farm logo for your business. You can also have one related to specific products if you're going after, you know, really ambitious, like the pink lady one is related to one specific breed of apples, I believe. So you use it in commerce, right? It helps the customer and really distinguish the origin of their products or their services. And the value is created because you have because once people are familiar with the thing, they're going to want to come back to that thing, especially if they really liked it, and then helps them figure it out, even if they can't remember where it was or what that farm's name was. I remember the picture, and that's the logo. It can take many forms. It can be a word, a name, a symbol, a slogan, device. It can be a lot of different things. It can be that font, you know, think of like anything like Amazon, the name itself, the font itself, the color combination, that's the logo. And that's protected through the copyright trade CPTO, the US CPTO. So that's something that you can register with the State Department of Assessment and Taxation and the federal government, but usually it's a state at the very least is something you want to do. If you are considering hiring an attorney to help you with an IP filing, I would say that's probably a good use of money. Those are types of forms you can actually fill the forms out on your own. They're not that complicated. But when it comes to logos, it can be a little tricky because, so this is an example of 3 different Whitehall farms, I think all along the East Coast. It's not all of them either, but you know, they're different. They're different, but they're the same farm name. And so what you have to really look out for is there going to be the potential of confusion between the 2 companies. So you want something that's very distinct, that's going to stand out. So and an IP attorney can help you do that search. That's what they get their money for, is helping you do that search. Copyright, this is going to be referring to things like the photos you take, all the content. Oh yeah, this one, pictures worth 1,000 words, except for when it's protected by copyright, in which case you may only get a cease and desist letter. Yeah, but so these are things like the content that you create as you market your business, your photos. If you have a newsletter, your article content, if you take videos of your farm or an educational program that you have on your farm, those are all things and materials, content that you've created that's copyright protected. Because when you do online marketing, you have to do it all the time, like every day, something new, right? And those are yours. And what you want to do, so it's 2 ways. From one side, you want to take steps to put other people on notice that this material is yours, and that you may want people to use it and attribute back to your page, or you don't want them to use it at all. Like sometimes you'll see at the very bottom of the article or whatever, you can use it with permission for limited uses, only for education purposes, not for money. But these rights are basically created automatically. Your right to control the use and have exclusive use to distribute and publish that material. You don't need to register anywhere to get those protection rights, but it can help. If it's something that it's like, you know, we're thinking about like CDs and songs, like those are something that are mainstream marketing material. It can be a very lengthy process to go through the Copyright Office and register, because anytime you update your body of work, you have to go and do that whole application process again, and that can be expensive. But just, you know, using your copyright, noticing things like that can help protect you, but also be on notice of other people's material, and that you really like something. What are their expectations for other people replicating or using their material? And reach out to them and ask, hey, can I use this? Can I post it? Can I share it? There's going to be a few other instances where it might be okay, but you should be aware of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which governs the means by which copyright holders can notify online service providers, and that's like your social media platforms, Etsy, YouTube, things like that. That their sites are posting, providing access to infringed material, which basically the person who posted it was not given permission to post it. And so you can submit a request, or you might receive a request to take it down. Yeah, and you're gonna find that information typically in the community's guidelines or terms of service, something like that, for whichever platform you post on. Already went over that. In terms, there's an example here in terms of like recipes, because what it does not copyright, it's not protecting facts or ideas or certain systems or a method of doing things. Like it doesn't protect the recipe, but it might protect how you express it, or you make illustrations, or you have a video, things like that. That can be protected, but not like the recipe itself. I mean, if that's a trademark, I mean, if it's like a trade secret, you know, your recipe, that's something you could also register. So a few exceptions are things that are in the public domain. I think copyrights are typically, it's been a while since I looked at this. I think it's like 70 years, the lifetime plus 70 years of the author and how long the work is protected when it's registered with the Copyright Office. And so when they fall out of that, they become into the public domain. So like, you know, I think there's a website you can go to and find that information. You also, things that are not copyright protected are things like words, names, very common phrases, blank forms, those aren't copyrighted, and non-original works, so works that have been amended or like satire sometimes. There's fair use, so if you are just using a portion of it, or you're using that piece of work to make sort of like a criticism toward it, that might be considered fair use and not considered an infringement on that copyright. And then the other option could be if you don't have photos of your own to post, which I think is always the best practice. People want to see that. But if you don't, or you're in a rush, you can always go to stock photos or Creative Commons and get a license to use that type of material. Here's just an example. I won't go into 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay. It can have consequences again. 2017, that's when the article was dated. But someone used 23 different instances of a plant image that was copyrighted by an Oregon-based plant retailer. And they were awarded $900,000 in damages because of that illegal use. They did not have permission to use that photo on the page. So, and one thing about this is like, for large companies, I'd be very wary because, and this goes with trademark too, because larger companies have people on staff to go and do internet searches. Like the US CPTO and the State Department, they're not enforcing this, right? You have the protection, so if you bring a claim, they can say, yes, you were the first person to file this, and so you're the first in line to have priority use if a lawsuit comes up. But they're not gonna go out and search like who's violating what, who's infringing. Large companies do that, and that's why they might come after smaller operations. But if you're a smaller operation, you kind of have to be your own advocate. You have to do your own monitoring. And so if you see somebody using your stuff somehow, word of mouth or however it goes, you're the person that has to reach out and be like, hey, this is mine. Please stop using it. Or you do the Digital Millennium Copyright Act process through your platform. But yeah, it's all with your own vigilance. Okay, so let's look at that. A few other things I want to touch on are commercial emails. So if you have a newsletter or you send marketing emails to your customers, it's important to be aware of the CAN Spam Act, which bans false or misleading header information. And again, prohibits deceptive subject lines in your emails. So if your primary purpose of your email is to market a product, that's considered a commercial email or a commercial advertisement. And it has to be clear, like this is for an advertising purpose, like, hey, look at my new product. Like this one here, it says Chewy Claus is coming to town tonight, right? That one's clearly advertising because I'm like, it's that product and it's Christmas time and I want to like treat my dog or my pet to something cute. But it can't be, the line is it disguised as a transactional email, like, hey, your account or here's your invoice. And it's really just a marketing email. You can have a combo, it can be mostly about the transaction. At the bottom, like, hey, by the way, since you bought this, you might be interested in these types of things too. But it has to be disclosed as an advertisement. Some guidelines there, we'll go into detail. There is some financial repercussions. If you break that law and you get reported, the FTC finds out. One thing you do have to provide in your commercial emails is the physical address of your business with contact information, and you have to provide them with the ability to unsubscribe from your newsletter or your commercial emails, and then take them off that list within 10 days. So you're supposed to do. I don't think it happens all the time, but anyway. And then so there's the federal CAN-SPAM Act, but then also Maryland has the Commercial Electronic Mail Act that it has an additional $500 per violated email if somebody complains about, you know, your illegal marketing practices through email. And then if you have customers in other states that you're emailing customers in other states, that state might also have its own law that would have additional fines. So this is information for if you want to do co-venture. There's no law in Maryland that you have to have a contract if you want to partner with a nonprofit and have a percentage of sales, but that's just an idea. There's some good practices to keep in mind about those. I won't go over it. Like I said. This can get sticky. Sorry, Nick.
I started you like 2 minutes late.
That's okay. No, I already.
Those two could be like a whole other section.
No, yeah, I just put it in here for you guys to read through later. It can get sticky. I don't want to talk about that stuff. And then general e-commerce compliance, all this. This is just really simple. So I've heard that for bigger companies, ADA compliance has been a big deal for web pages. And so if you have a platform that you are, you know, it's hosting your web page, go through and check that they are complying with ADA requirements for your web page, especially if it's a web page where they can conduct a financial transaction through that platform. So your customer can buy your product or through there, just make sure that it's ADA compliant. It's more of an issue in New York. So if you sell in New York, that can be an issue for you, but if you're still in Maryland, it's maybe not so much. Just be aware that there are data breach laws too. So if you are holding on to your customers' data, so like emails and first, last name, emails, phone numbers, mailing address, like those are personally identifiable data, you have to take steps to protect that information. And the FTC has a great guide. You have not seen it already. I highly recommend you go and see it. It's very easy to understand about cybersecurity for small businesses, just some really practical, easy to follow tips. Yeah, I'm not gonna go through this. I'm gonna call it good for now and any good questions.
I saw a little article on the previous slide that forms are not able to be copyrighted. What was that?
Blank form.
Okay, what would constitute like a blank form, like a template for your business or what?
Oh, so like government forms are often what I'm thinking of, like, you know, an application, like that last.
I'm just curious about that, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean like if you develop a template for your own internal use? Maybe, yeah, I mean, if it's a public link form, that's not copyrightable. If it's for your internal use, like you have a very specific program, right?
I was told that if you have a domain name in your business, that can be a means of having that copyright.
A domain name, copyright coverage for your business?
Yeah, it's bad. I have a domain name. Not an active site yet, but.
So-
Can you copyright?
It depends, which is Hillary's favorite answer. It depends. So I think they look at things like, first in market, you know, so are you actively marketing your product? Do you have transactions, do you have customers already? And you also just have a domain and you're kind of like getting through the process of filing your logo, a trademark information, then maybe, but if you don't have people in the market yet, you're not, you know, marketing and selling and have customers, and then another company comes along and they want to use the same name and they're doing all that already, they might have a stronger claim to that use because they're putting it into practice.
That last lawsuit you mentioned, if it's the case that you do find yourself in violation of your right to take someone else's image on liability, is there a pathway to just cease and desisting, or are you going into litigation?
Like they put you on notice or you figured it out yourself?
Well, they put you on notice.
Yeah, if they put you on notice, just that.
Okay.
Just that, yeah, follow that and they probably won't sue you. They just want you to comply and they want to affect the grant, they practice.
Because if you let people use it and you don't take those cease and desist letters, that can break your copyright, right? Like I've been told.
I'm not gonna say yes or no on that, I have to look it up, but I don't think it would break the copyright protection, it wouldn't waive the rights. Because they've already reserved it by creating it and by registering it. I have to look that up. Any other questions?
How do you get caught?
How do you get caught?
Somebody reports you.
Yes, like I said, like those big companies, they have people search the internet for anything associated with their brands. If it's a bigger site, and if it's just a smaller business, it might just like heard it from word of mouth, like, hey. I noticed that so-and-so has your image or your picture, or did you let them use that? Like, maybe that's gonna happen. Yeah, and there's a few more slides that you guys, if you're interested in. Sorry.
Sorry,
Yes.
Is there any resources in Maryland or federally that help farmers with like trademark applications or anything related to IP?
Yeah, absolutely. So the US CPTO website, Copyright Patent and Trademark Office, there we go, the patents that I forgot. Go to their webpage. They've got a bunch of very boring videos that you can watch. They're not that boring. But they do have a lot of videos and articles that will walk you through. Honestly, watching these things. And I'm pretty good, but that's a great place to start. I don't know, actually, so with the grant for me, it's actually, I'm gonna be doing a fact sheet to kind of lay some more of this about, but that's the best.
Cause I'm like a while and I pretty much got all of my like trademarks and it's not cheap. And I will say one thing I've learned is like you have to be really specific with the category. So like fruits and vegetables, dried fruits and vegetables, like your trademark is only for certain categories and you already like you mentioned, you already have to sell them. And like it's just not as easy as it seems to DIY.
It's not, technically you could do it, but a lawyer is worth your money in that realm, I think. And yeah, you are right, they do the
It's
categories.
$1,000 usually.
Yeah, it's the money, and then you have to renew it like every 5 to 10 years. Do the renewal paperwork, and you have to have that on your calendar and remember to renew it, so it doesn't lapse. But that's the USPTO website is the best place to
I
start.
do know that if it's technology related, that TEDCO has some resources for like trademark and patents. But it'd be interesting to have like a grant where, we could help farmers get that stuff.
Thank you, Megan. Can we give Megan back? And so if you haven't gotten the impression yet, the Ag Law Education Initiative, Megan and Paul and Nicole and their whole team are amazing. They've got a wonderful website with so much information on it. Check them out. We're gonna take a 10-minute break at this point, get up, stretch. There's more bathrooms upstairs. I think there might still be cookies, talk to people. We'll reconvene at 2:30ish.
But I don't know.
So there's two things. One of them is a lot of the folks who farm in the city. Some of them sell at the farm. Most of the folks who farm in the city sell at farm. So. They would be good. I'd say 80% of the vendors who benefit from it, they don't come to markets. I think Allison will be the first person monthly number meetings. One of the extension office. If you have it like once a So they so what they do is all their members bring produce to the market and then they bring to those. Oh, it caught on fire, did it? Thank you. I was wondering, I was what's going on. Thank you. Okay, wow. No, it's not good. The light bulb is so hot, it's caught on fire. Yeah, it's just the light bulb. Yeah. The light bulb. No, it's the battery.
You can hear my voice clap 3 times. I'm gonna go shout at the people upstairs and then we're gonna get started, so if we can wrap it up, we'll get started. Started again. Over there. Thank you. There might be some. Sorry, if you want to help, I just remember your name and face for a second. I was like, I know somebody. Thank you, I really appreciate it, I'm sorry, I know, if the speakers are supposed to stop talking, because we did the clapping thing. We need to clap 4 times?
Yeah.
4 times. Excuse me, sorry, I know the networking is really the best part of this, but they're gonna kick us out at 4. And I'd like to make sure we get to go through the agenda before we all go home, so I need to keep us going. Thank you very much. Okay. So, quick announcements, Isabella wanted to plug something, and I think you want to hand out a survey, but they're helping clean up some stuff. Isabella.
Hi, everybody. My name is Isabella Burnell, the trustee of Foundation. I just want to plug a monthly urban ag meeting I host. It's a really good way to get plugged into the urban ag scene in Maryland and kind of learn about resources. A lot of the people in this room are there. It's a good opportunity to ask questions and kind of learn about what's going on in the area with urban ag. So if you're interested, I put my card up there, right up there. You can grab it and just leave me an email. I'd love to see you there.
Thank you. And Jenny, did you want to hand out your survey now for people to work on? Later in the agenda.
For this survey, and my contact information is on it. We are developing the survey. So it's sort of like if you want to give us feedback, and it's about different irrigation practices, like why would, if you're not on city water, if you are on city water. And now we know there's more funding potentially available for switching and more coupling systems. For drought resilience or, different reasons you might wanna think about, and our research team is gonna present at the end. So I just wanted to get the survey out to you to see and help us with the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you stick around to the end, there's an excellent talk on rainwater harvesting. And we want to give you a chance to fill out the survey before we get that far. I will try to get us back on time. I'm scheduled to speak next. I'm here to talk with you today about market research. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do your own market research and a little bit about what I've found, trying to do it some myself. And what I've been doing is I'll tell you, first I have to click on a slide so that this will work. Now it works. Okay, but first I have to remind you again that we are an equal opportunity educator. I gave the spiel already. If you have not done so already, please fill out the demographic forms so I can see how we're doing. This work is based on funding from USDA's Beginning Farmer Program. So market research, sometimes when people think about market research, they think about what they see, on Instagram, what's trending, what's exciting. That is a part of market research, right? And like, what's the next big thing? But as a farmer, you want your farm to exist beyond the current big trend, right? So it's not enough to just know what's exciting to people right now. There's market research can be a lot more quantitative than research based than just seeing what's popping up on Instagram and keep it going. Here's another example. Mintel is a private market research database, and they've got all these articles about what's trending in cooking sauces and hair care innovations. This is I searched for mushrooms, and apparently mushrooms are showing up in hair care now. So again, there's a lot of trends out there, but how do we approach this information in a more organized way? Market research is gathering information about your customers' behavior and about economic trends, things like surveying your customers, things like checking prices of similar products that are out there, things like creating a list of your potential competitors. And why should you bother doing this?
So here's a scenario I've been using to think through how to do market research as a farmer. Let's say you're farmer Jay, she has a small indoor space, maybe the size of this basement room, right? And she wants to get started with an enterprise. She's considering microgreens, she's considering specialty mushrooms. You can grow those indoors, both in a similar space. When you're trying to make a decision like this as a farmer about which enterprise should I invest my time and money in, it can feel really overwhelming. And market research is a set of tools you can use to help you make a more informed decision about what enterprise is going to be most profitable for you and what is worth your time. It's also, I think, a really important tool because in my experience, particularly in controlled environment agriculture, there's a lot of suppliers out there who will promise you the sky, who will show you their beautiful glossy catalog and say, if you buy my growing system, you will make $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 a year. How do you know if those numbers are true? If someone is trying to sell you a product, right? So you can go and do your own work, reality check the assumptions that are based on the projections before you start investing in these people are trying to sell you. It's important to market research is also a useful tool for bank your projections on potential profitability. When you're estimating your return on your investment, when you're doing an enterprise budget, there's a lot of numbers that need to go into those. And you can estimate, you can guess, you can pull them out of the air, but it's going to be a lot more realistic. You can gather some data to plug those numbers in for us. When people start thinking about market research, it can be really overwhelming. Where to start? There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of databases. There's a lot of articles. So what I recommend is focusing on what the question is that you need to answer with your market research. So Jay, in our scenario, she has a decision in front of her. She goes mushrooms and she goes microgreens. So you can break that question up into some smaller questions that then you can answer with your activities doing market research. Question one is how much of each product can she sell? Right, those people who are trying to sell her on the growing kit, they're going to say she can grow a certain amount per square foot and sell it at a certain price. But are there enough customers out there who have the demand to buy this, and are they going to buy everything she produces? What is the price that she can sell it at, right? What price are people going to pay for this product? So these two specific questions are answered by what market research calls demand, market size, market saturation, and pricing. That's what we're going to get into in the next couple slides. And another important vocabulary term to think about is primary versus secondary research. Primary research is when you collect new information yourself, like when you survey your customers. Secondary research is when you access and interpret how it applies to you some existing information. There's a lot of excellent public databases out there with existing information. The benefit of doing secondary research is that it's easier, it's faster, there's stuff out there that exists already that you don't have to collect. The downside is it's less tailored to your needs. And when you're working with a specialty product, when you're working in the local market, often the data that's out there isn't quite what you need to answer your questions. Primary research is a lot more time intensive. You have to go out and talk to people. You have to go to farmers markets and look at prices. You have to go and find what's on the menu at the different restaurants. But it can be really specific to the product that you're looking at. So what I like to do is start with the secondary research, find out what exists out there already, and then use that to tailor the questions that you do for primary research, what you need to spend your time on to find that doesn't exist already. So we're thinking about Jay and her basement and whether she's going to grow mushrooms or microgreens. She has seen a lot of really glossy YouTube videos with influencers who are telling her that she can make $800, she can make $200,000 a year growing these crops. YouTube says it does, but is it true? That's what she needs to answer. In the past, both specialty mushrooms and microgreens restaurants, high-end restaurants, have bought at relatively high prices. But with the COVID pandemic, some of those restaurants have closed. Some of those restaurants have shifted to more fast casual concepts that had to lower their input costs. Are the restaurants still buying? Do home cooks actually want these products? There's a lot of anecdotal kind of traditional health claims about these products that people use to sell them, but are folks actually using them? The word we use for answering this question is demand. Is there a demand for this product? So how we can dig into that question of demand using the secondary research. What I did is I started with the data that USDA has reported. Let's see, okay, I'm just checking how far off I am. 240, okay. So there's a report on mushroom consumption in the US. This is an example of easy to access free information that is not exactly what we're looking for. If this is information about US consumption of all mushrooms. In particular, the things people can get at grocery stores, right? And if you're a specialty mushroom grower, you might eventually be selling to a grocery store, but as you get started, you're probably selling to farmers markets. You're probably selling, you know, cremini mushrooms or oyster mushrooms, not the little button mushrooms. So this report is about button mushrooms specifically. But it has information on mushroom consumption in the US. It says that per capita mushroom consumption is positively correlated with income, highest among ages 29, lowest for children, not surprising, kids will or will not eat mushrooms sometimes, and Asian and non-Hispanic white consumers were the strongest consumers of mushrooms. Now, again, you know, that's a broad generality. There are plenty of people of other demographics who love mushrooms. There are plenty of Asian and white people who hate mushrooms. But if you take that information and you start looking at the census data for your area, you can start to get a rough estimate of what the potential demand is for mushrooms in your area. Other thing to note, this report is from 2003. You know, USDA's budget has not gone to reissuing this report since then, so it might be a little bit out of date. Another important thing that I noted was that the trends in production of mushrooms and the trends in imports. So a growing share of mushrooms are imported, moving from 4% in 2008 to 13% in 2017. So that's a potential risk to consider in demand is, as if this market is growing, that could be good for your business, but is the import market then following the market growth? That's something you're gonna need to watch out for. The data itself is out there. So this was a report on the data that the USDA Economic Research Service collects every year. So there is more updated data in their database. They just haven't published an updated report yet. So you can go and dig into the data yourself. I have not tried to do my own version of the report yet, but maybe now that we have an urban economist coming on, maybe that's something we can just work on. We'll see what she wants to work on. I did my darndest to find some secondary data on microgreens demand. I did not find it. The closest I found when I searched on Mintel, and I think Megan, this is an example of, you know, copyrighted information. I'm not supposed to show you the whole report, but this is just the search results that popped up. There were 2 articles on microgreens.
That's the URL there next time.
Yeah, catch it.
And I did find a thesis on microgreens market analysis, but when I got into it, the only market analysis they did was listing microgreens farms in California, which is not really what I'm looking for. So I did not find any secondary data on microgreens demand.
Did you look at SARE?
So SARE has a lot on how to produce them. I haven't found a lot of the market type data. So then we start getting into primary research. And a couple of ideas for how you could start assessing demand using primary research. This might be what my interns do this summer, is going through menus of restaurants in your area and seeing where are these products showing up on restaurant menus? What percent of high-end restaurants are actually putting these products on plates? And that would give you a good secondary research. Now that we've identified with the secondary research that you don't have certain information, this could be a good way to get primary research on whether there's demand for these two products. The other really useful tool that is very time intensive that I like to recommend for primary research on demand is called customer discovery interviews. And sometimes when people think about customer discovery, think about surveying or interviewing their customers, they kind of think of it more as a sales pitch. Like, I'm going to sit down with this person, convince them they should eat microgreens. And that's not what this is about. This is more about sitting down with someone, and it can be your friends, it can be your family as you get practice. And more listening to them and asking open-ended questions. And saying, where are your pain points? Where are your problems? Where are the things that you need solved related to the food that you buy? So it's not specific questions like, do you want to eat microgreens? It's more open-ended, like, tell me about the last time you shopped for ingredients for a special meal. Or what do you think makes a healthy diet? Or what do you dislike about shopping for fresh produce? The idea with customer discovery is you want to identify a problem that your customer has, that they're gonna be willing and able to pay money to solve. And then you can rethink what your product is that will solve that problem for them. And you can get more specific into your specific product, but it's really important not to get too wet at the front with what you're gonna sell. And listen to your potential customers about what their problems are. So we've just been talking about demand, that's do people want the products you're selling. The other thing that you're measuring here is market size. How many people want these products? How much are they going to buy? We talked about getting that secondary data from the USDA on what demographics tend to be eating these products. Then you can do more to assess market size. I mentioned you could then go to the census data to see how many, what the population is like in your area and how that aligns with the consumption demographics. When you're doing primary research, again, you could look at those menus for restaurants and customer discovery. When you have those interviews, start asking questions about volume when you're putting how many times a week do you eat salad? When you put together a sandwich, do you put something green on the sandwich? How many times a week do you pack sandwiches for lunch? Things like that.
Do you mind if I just?
Please.
So one thing that I learned with the primary research is not only like how many people are serving how many restaurants are serving mushrooms, but how many are sourcing locally versus like sourcing from US food, because that to me has been a bigger hurdle. Like, will they take the time and see the value in sourcing locally?
That's a really good point about whether the restaurant's serving locally. I've got some slides later on the prices. And I think the prices vary a lot depending on whether you're buying wholesale or retail or from local. So I think that is a very good point. So looking at how many restaurants there are that market themselves as farm to table would also give you a sense of what your real potential customer base is out of all the restaurants that are out there. Which ones are essentially using the fact that they buy from local farms as advertising for themselves. So it's part of their profits to be purchasing from local farms. Market saturation. Is there room for a new farmer in this market? This is a question we get a lot with cut flowers. There's been a big boom of cut flower farmers, but that means there's a lot of cut flower farmers out there. So how many is too many? Are there already too many businesses selling mushrooms and microgreens in Jay's region? Is there an unmet demand that Jay could meet? Is there a niche for a slightly different product that Jay can produce and sell? Maybe one of those value-added products like shampoos that there was that trend about. One source that I think could be particularly helpful for assessing market saturation is the Maryland Department of Agriculture has their locally grown program. We've got some representatives here. They also have some really helpful lists where you can get your farm listed as a local farm for people to find. That can also be a source for you as market research data, looking through what are the listings of farms that are selling the products that I'm interested in right now. They have their annual they have a whole database of local farms. They also have their annual buyer grower expo. Where they have lists of where farms can advertise their products and where buyers can advertise what they're looking to buy. So this annual buyer grower expo catalog is a really useful source of market data. Pricing. This is where I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. So what can Jay charge for her farms? We like to talk in extension often about something called an enterprise budget, where you basically break down how much it costs you to grow your product, how to produce your product, and then what price you sell it at, and you compare those numbers and you see whether you're in the red or you're in the black, whether you're making money or you're losing money. And in order to do that calculation, you need to have a realistic idea of how much you can charge for your product. So there's a lot of secondary research data already out there. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service and the USDA Economic Research Service have a lot of information. A lot of it is not as relevant to urban growers as you might like. There's something called the Produce Price Index. If you are someone who's interested in working at the wholesale scale, this is probably relevant to you. They have a lot of data on how much farmers are really making when they sell through the grocery store, the farm price, the retail price is the difference. There's a lot of really interesting data there. But if you're just getting started selling to a grocery store, it's really not going to be profitable for you. Retail prices, they also have information here on what retail prices different vegetables are going for. If you're selling direct to customers, sometimes this can be kind of the base level of what you're looking at. But then they also have farmers market prices. They used to collect some data in Maryland. They haven't done that since I think 2017. But they have some other states where they're collecting data. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge. In Pennsylvania, all they've got is dairy farmers market data, which is not what we're looking for. I got excited. I thought, oh, Pennsylvania, that's almost Maryland. That's got to be relevant. No.
Lancaster Farm.
Lancaster Farm.
Actually does, a lot of big produce.
I'm gonna have to add that one. Thank you, Dave. Lancaster Farmer.
That would be mine.
They do have reports from Virginia's farmers market, though, just down here past Pennsylvania. Several they've been contracting with Virginia or sending out USDA folks to Virginia to catalog farmers market prices for a variety of produce there. So that's where I got some of the data for this table. I was pulling together the different prices that people are seeing from that secondary data, the retail prices, the farmers market prices, and restaurant supply. I'd really like to get a hold of some restaurant supply catalogs. But Webstaurant is selling portobello mushrooms, so at least that's some interesting data. And Webstaurant was selling porcini. And in farmers markets, though, I think this number I'm pretty certain on. I've been seeing a lot of folks selling mushrooms at farmers markets for $6 for a tray in our region and in Virginia. So that seems to be the going price for the past year. So again, microgreens, the best data I was able to find was a 2018 report out of Alberta. They've got some production cost data, they've got some sales price data for selling microgreens by the flat and by the clamshell. But it's a little old and it's from Canada. I also did a little bit of digging on people who are selling online through their website for green sales, mostly by the clamshell. And I was finding anywhere from $3.50 to $7.50 per clamshell. And I put that in the retail price because I also found some going for about that price at grocery stores. And if you're selling from your website direct to your consumer, that's kind of retail. I didn't find any. I need to do some. I might send my interns around to farmers markets this summer. There's a lot of people saying you can sell to restaurants for $25 to $40 a tray, but I didn't find any actual non-anecdotal data on that. But I really love price.
Curious, but just all together, is there a difference between the type of microgreen you can get?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between the type. There's a difference in the cost of production between the type. Basil is a little more expensive to produce because it likes to heat. Arugula microgreens seem to be selling for a slightly higher price when I was looking at them. I'm not sure why. So there is some spread between the type of microgreens in the as well. And basil takes longer. That was why it costs more to produce.
The Future Harvest Conference commented at the talk, and I think she mentioned that the ones that are herbs are typically it's all higher.
Interesting.